The Box Seat brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link for your worldwide harness coverage. New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred where winning begins. Brecon Farms. Stonewall Stud. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Australasian-wide Garrard's Horse and Hound. Renwick Farms. Lincoln Farms. Harness Racing New Zealand and the clubs Addington, Ashburton, Alexandra Park and Cambridge. Hi everyone, welcome to this season of The Box Seat. Yes, Michael Guerin, we are back. We've had our winter hiatus and haven't we come back at an incredibly important time?
Hey Greg, big hi to you and big hi to everybody watching around New Zealand, but also of course our friends further afield. I know we have viewers in Australia and those watching on YouTube. Great to have your company for the second part of season 2022. And Greg, that's the thing I think a lot of our viewers and punters and even us are getting our heads around. This new season where we started the feature race season, it took that break over the winter and now we're into races like the really good juvenile fillies race at Alexandra Park on Friday night. And we're seeing for the first time in our sports history this division between early season juvenile and 3-year-old racing and back into the season, which is going to become incredibly busy heading forward, Greg. I'm still trying to work out what it all means. And I think there's some real strength to it when you look at the race on Friday night. But it does leave us with these odd anomalies of the ones we're about to see. 3-year-olds like a Kuta winning their Hannon Memorial. It is a time of change in harness racing, Greg, and we are here to help everybody try and understand better what's going on.
Yeah, we've got plenty of information for you today. So we'll have a look at some of the feature races that have already got underway leading towards the IRT New Zealand Cup. And here they are, Michael. We start with Old Town Road. He's making an impression, and he did on this very wet night at Alexandra Park, beating the previous Cup winner, of course, and copy that.
Yeah, so less than 7 weeks to go to the IRT New Zealand Cup. So we're checking out some of the races so far to bring you up to speed. So as you mentioned, Old Town Road there beating Copy That, who of course subsequently has gone to Melbourne and won the Gammalite Free for All. Progressive horse, a horse on the move, and Greg, much like this horse, a very fast horse. And what you're going to see a lot here in these clips, Greg, are these quick paces making their way into open class.
Yeah, this was an outstanding performance in the Morris Homes by He's a Sport. He beat the Jeff and James Dunn pair of the Falcon and Laver. News coming out yesterday, of course, Laver has come out, but automatic entry race for the IRT New Zealand Cup, as was this, Michael. Manners to the fore here. He was slightly slow away, Ultra Wise Guy. Outstanding in the end, too fast for them for his stablemate Beatty Joe, who stormed home.
What we're seeing again is these fast horses, Old Town Road, He's a Sport, Ultra Wise Guy, even BD Joe, they're quick, Greg. The question we're going to have to ask ourselves by the time we get to the second Tuesday in November is, are they tough enough? Are they well-rounded enough? Are they experienced enough for 2 miles in the big time with those horses who are going to be trialling on Wednesday? So a lot of speed being injected into our open class ranks. Here's one I know well, Mick Stanley with Rock and Roll Do, outstanding at Menangle during their carnival back in February and March. They said this horse is perfect for Addington. He's not a name many people listening to the show would know if they live in New Zealand, but he's a big horse, not the cleanest pacer in the world. They think 2 miles standing start around Addington is perfect. I think he's the most likely Australian to come to the New Zealand Cup.
Here's Copy That, winning last weekend, got a beautiful run in transit, Michael, and dashed away for Nathan Jack. This is the real Copy That.
Yeah, drove it beautifully, got the right sort of run, far better than he was the week before in the Rock and Roll Do race. Out of this race, Lochinvar Art had a bleed. He was stood down for 28 days. More importantly, his future either lies in the US, where he can race on Lasix, or in the breeding barn. So Lochinvar Art out of the New Zealand Cup.
Here's a Kuta winning the Placemakers Hannon Memorial last Sunday. Sat Park, Pembroke Playboy in front, Ultra Wise Guy getting up the passing lane, but it was the young gun taking on the free-for-allers and delivering. Overall time wasn't that fast, Michael, 3:20, but he's a horse on the rise, and I reckon every time he lines up this season, his chances of starting in the IRT New Zealand Cup increase by about 10%. What about you?
I had a good talk to Mark Purdon on Tuesday, a couple of days after the race, so he had had time to absorb what had happened and what he thought. And Mark said, look, this has got me no closer to a New Zealand Cup start. Had he gone poorly, he'd be further away. But I'm still very neutral. He was very pragmatic about it, Greg, as you can afford to be when you've also got Self Assured and Spankum. This is important because he's the second favourite. He said, I'm going to go to the Lazarus, which is the 3-year-old race on Friday week. He doesn't want to start against Self Assured and Spankum if he doesn't have to. So he goes to the Lazarus if it gets off the ground. If he does that, he has the option to then drop up to, a race like the Ashburton Flying Stakes. I think that's when we'll see whether Akuta will go to the New Zealand Cup. He was by no means saying, yep, we're going, we're definitely going to be there. I think Akuta, Greg, he might be 60-40, 70-30 to go. Just a word of warning for punters, but that was super impressive. He was biggish in condition, Greg. We don't see a lot of horses sit parked to win their fresh up starts. They can often win against the marker pegs. Very, very rare they sit parked to win fresh up, Greg. Akuta has arrived. Whether he has arrived as a genuine New Zealand Cup chance, and again, like those horses in that video, Greg, outside Rock and Roll Do, a lot of them were speed horses. Copy that, obviously, we know can win a cup because he did so last year. Whether they are quite as speedy at the end of 3,200 metres in 3:53 or 3:54, I guess we're going to have to find out. So, interesting montage of horses. We know Copy that can do this. The rest of them, Greg, I guess we're going to find out together.
Yeah, rankings have come out in the last couple of weeks. Here's the latest update. So, of course, automatic entry races, last year's winner, Self Assured, of course. He ranks himself in 2. He's a Sport and Ultra Wise Guy have won those. The Canterbury Classic's the next automatic entry race. So, look, there's always a little bit of conjecture around the rankings. I think they're about right, though, Michael. And anyone below the top 15, they get their chance to work their way up the rankings via the sorts of races we're talking about. The Canterbury Classic, to a lesser extent, the Methven Cup, which could have a decent field, including one of those trialists today in South Coast Arden. Spankum's at the trials today, Self Assured's at the trials too. In terms of the market, though, Michael, spoke to Matt Purdon about where there's been any money. Has there been any money? So the market looks like this. $3 at the moment, Self Assured. Not a lot of specking around him. $4 Akuta. He was about $9 sort of 6 weeks ago. And Copy That's the interesting one. Got out to as long as $9, back into $8.50 on his most recent performance. It looks at least as good as his preparation was going into winning last year's Cup.
I backed him at $9, Greg, only because I think all the lead-up racing aside, by the time we get to November the 8th, and that's the crucial date, November the 8th, how many horses are going to line up in the Cup we know can win a Cup? We know Self Assured can win a Cup. He's won a bunch of them, 2 Auckland Cups and a New Zealand Cup. We probably know that Spankum has had his chances, and I don't want to back him to win a Cup even though he's a very good horse. South Coast Arden is at the moment on the unruly. So I don't want to back South Coast Arden off the unruly to win a Cup, and he's going to need to improve on the back end of last season's form. Krug, still unproven at the top level. So then we have Akuta, who we know is good enough, but is he tough enough? We'll find that out together, as I said, over the next 7 weeks. But that leaves me with 3 horses, Greg, I know can win a Cup. I know they're good enough. Self Assured and Copy That. They've done it. And Majestic Cruiser, who, if he comes across from Australia, and he's yet to have his standing start trial, we know as a messenger winner, which is the gateway to the Cup, he can win a Cup because he's beaten Cup winners. Greg, by the time we get there, there's a whole bunch of horses may embellish those records, but they're the horses we know can do this. And that's why I backed Copy That at $9. Ray Green telling me this week he will definitely be coming home after the Victoria Cup. That's around the 8th of October, and then he'll come home. Standing starts, no concern. 2 miles, no concern. What will be interesting, and we spoke to Blair Orange on SENZ this week, is he's not confirmed yet for Copy That as a South Island driver and defending Cup driver. He said, well, I've also got commitments to Krug and to Team Dalgety, and I'll be driving Krug a lot longer and more often than I will Copy That. Ray Green told us that if that eventuates, they'll be looking to use Maurice McKendry, his North Island driver, in the New Zealand Cup, which will give Maurice, Greg, at the back end of his career, his first chance to win the New Zealand Cup. So lots of pieces on the chessboard at the moment. You mentioned the trials on Wednesday, all the big guns. Then Friday night we head to Alexandra Park, where there's at least 2 Cup contenders in the Spring Cup.
Yeah, looking forward to that on Friday night. I spoke to Blair Orange about Krug's performance in the Hannon. He said, disappointing. He actually stepped away, rolled into a gallop, but he said he wasn't overly impressed with his last 100, so he certainly has to improve on that. The Renwick Farms Dominion's an interesting old go. Let's have a look at some of the lead-up races thus far. Michael, here's Mataderos winning at Addington. Nice performance, beating Chief of Staff. The week before he had a gallop, but he's getting back to something like his best form, which we know was good enough to run second in the Dominion behind Sunday's Sun last year.
Well, we go back to the paces, Greg. We know they're good enough to win this race or these races if they've done this before. And he was as good as doing it last year because he ran second to Sunday's Sun, but he was about 10 lengths in front of Bolt for Brilliance. So we know he's a contender. There's no doubts about that. The question here for the big fella, and he's the first of the big three back. This is Muscle Mountain in the green colours, Greg, is whether this season he can be as potent over 2 miles as he is over the shorter trips. If he is, Greg, and he can lead in one of these feature races, particularly the Renwick Farms Dominion, he's going to take an enormous amount of beating. Not the easiest horse, I would suggest, Greg, to train. I think he's more on a knife edge than Sunday Sun or Bolt for Brilliance, but he might well be the fastest trotter in Australasia.
Yeah, really strong hand for Greg and Nina Hope. Lovely to see him back winning in those Ian Dobson colours. Here's Call Me Trouble winning. Reason we're showing you this, Michael, is son of Patrick holds a nomination for the Renwick Farms Dominion, and Alexandra Park hasn't been his friend in the past, but you had to love his last 100 metres here.
He was good. I don't think the Dominion winner's in this. I think everybody knows the Dominion winner will probably come from the top 3, but Zach Butcher indicating he may take this horse south and look to the free-for-all rather than the Dominion. This horse here, I would suggest, Greg, back in the winner's circle after several years away, Ingheim will be a Dominion horse. What a wonderful stayer he is. And Greg, how often do we see this as he runs past Majestic Man, and that's Big Matuatana down the outside? They have a big break from racing, Greg. They come back, they're just okay, and then 3 or 4 starts in, they get rid of that internal fat and they get back to something like their best. That was the summary of Ingheim. He's a rich addition to those open class ranks, but I think everybody, Greg, rates the top 3 clear by themselves, and by the end of the season, I'll be surprised if any of these horses have been able to sneak one of the really major races away from the top 3. The question then, Big X, where do they all go? How often do they clash? The news coming out in recent weeks, Tony Herlihy, who was originally going to miss the New Zealand Cup Carnival, is now almost certain to head there with Bolt for Brilliance. He wants to have 2 runs in the north and then head to Kaikoura. So, Greg, it should be game on for the big 3.
Yeah, Ingheim's performance, that was his 11th start, Michael, over the short course 1980 at Addington. He's won 10 of them, and I spoke to Greg Hope on Friday night post the win. I said, did you notice any improvement in it? He said his blood hasn't been quite right. It was bang on for this week, so he wasn't surprised at all. And it was a good performance to come outside Majestic Man and run past him as easily as he did. Rankings-wise, not so important compared to what's happening in the IRT New Zealand Cup. What is important is the market, and the big 3, as you mentioned, Michael. We're talking defending champion of the Dominion, of course, Sunday's Sun. He's at $2.50, $2.70 for Bolt, $6 Muscle Mountain, and the runner-up last year, $11 Mataderos, out to $41 if you are a fan of Ingheim.
Very close in the market, aren't they? Considering Sunday Sun's the champion over the 2 miles, the national record holder, and is based in Canterbury, and Bolt for Brilliance is still way up here in Auckland. So I think they're too close in the market for what they are. Admittedly, Bolt for Brilliance was outstanding winning the Road Cup. So having those 3 together, Greg, is really scary for everybody else because you might hope one horse is unlucky. Let's not forget it's a free-for-all. You might hope even 2 are unlucky, but the chances of all 3 of them being unlucky, still interesting contest ahead for these horses and disparate form lines. I think Muscle Mountain will go to Ashburton. I think Sunday Sun won't go to Ashburton, and Bolt for Brilliance racing in the north going through Kaikoura, Greg. Hopefully, we get them all together at Cup Week and we haven't seen them race each other too much, and I think that's the best version of it. And the New Zealand Trolley Cup's the same. A little bit of North Island, a little bit of Methven jumping in the middle, Ashburton, a Lazarus Stakes for Akuta, and the Victoria Cup way over here for Copy That. I like that. I think that's the best version of harness racing, is when we don't see them all in the same lead-up races, because it creates some doubt. and also some opinion making for people over what is actually the best form. So really interesting, less than 7 weeks out, Greg, from the Cup for both the big features.
Yeah, what'll be interesting around Akuta starting in that 3-year-old race is whether it gets off the ground, Michael, because once his name lobs into the nominations, it might scare a few off, and then Mark Purdon's hand may well be forced. He might have to go into the Canterbury Classic, so still a few balls in the air in that regard. It has been Blue September, and of course Harness Racing New Zealand putting together a great month for the support of that wonderful cause. We caught up with Blair Orange, or they did, in this nice wee piece to explain what it's all about as we go to our first break. And Blue September, the success thus far, they've gone beyond the budget of 30,000, could get close to 50 by the time the month's ended.
It's Copy That's Cup though. Chew up, ladies. He's done it. Copy That won the New Zealand Cup by 2.5 on Self Assured. South Coast Arden runs third, and Steal the Show ran the race of his life.
We've come in today for a test on the prostate cancer and talk to Dr. Wilkinson about the procedures and what's needed to have those tests and see what comes of it. I think everyone's been touched by sadness of people they've lost through cancer, and as we get older, it's one thing as men definitely we should get a checkup before it's too late.
So today we've introduced Blair to prostate screening, talked about some of the symptoms which are very important in men's health, and the management strategy that we would employ for most men who come for screening. Well, the most important one of all would be blood in the urine, but we want to see you before that. So things that relate to difficulty passing urine, frequent urination, slow stream, dribbling, getting up at night, those are the main ones to investigate. So they're not all prostate cancer symptoms, but they all relate to us requiring investigation further. So normally we'd recommend screening from the age of 50, unless there is a strong family history. And by that we mean first degree relative, father or brother with prostate cancer, generally at any age. If a man was simply here for screening purposes, we normally do a blood test and a urine sample just to be sure there was no infection. And then depending on the level of the PSA, we would determine how frequently we should be doing that blood test. All right, come on through.
Just press on there.
Yep. That's it, too easy.
Common issue for men presenting to doctors for investigation is the fear of having a rectal examination and your finger inserted. And the reality is that we seldom do that. There is a strong body of evidence which suggests general practice shouldn't do rectal examinations for prostate cancer screening. That should be left to the specialist urologists. And even so, what we're aiming to do is pick up cancer in the prostate before we can feel it at the capsule level. In other words, where it's microscopic, if you like, rather than feeling this stony, hard prostate that you know is going to be cancerous without any other investigation.
What do you think you're doing, Shag? Hey? Easier than what I thought to have a checkup and talk to the doctor about what the ins and outs are, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward and plain and simple. You're getting to that age of 50 or so, it's kind of mandatory but not mandatory to have a checkup and see what things are like on the inside, and yeah, it's a piece of cake, and yeah, don't be scared.
Welcome back into your box seat. Yes, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Big thank you to them. Michael, that was a great insight from Harness Racing New Zealand with Blair Orange around Blue September. There are about 29 or 30 wins for the month already, of which Zachary Butcher, who's been on fire, has had 11 of those wins. But it's an important month. It's a job they do very well. And as I said pre the break, we're up over 30,000 raised already.
Yeah, and it's important, Greg, that harness racing and all racing codes are part of the community. You need to do things for the community, and we know that with the Team Teal campaign around ovarian cancer. Look, it's important, for us to say to people, we're not just taking money out of the system, we're putting money back into the system. And if you're a bloke out there and you are of a certain age, no hassles to go to the doctor, no need to be embarrassed, go there, get a checkup, and it could save you a lot of heartache further down the line. I've had a few mates who have been affected by prostate cancer, and they all said the same thing, Greg. I would like to have got checked up earlier. So it's all that we live in a country, Greg, where these things are available to you. You should make the most of them if you can, because there's plenty of other things that can get you in life. Why would you open yourself up to the stuff that you really don't need to?
Yep, very well said, Michael. Alexandra Park, we're going to focus on that first up, Michael, in terms of our preview. And what we're going to do with the box seat this year is, with the internet and opportunities via Twitter and the like, most of the post-race stuff has already appeared before our show each and every week. So we're going to spend a bit more time previewing what is ahead. And what's ahead this Friday night at Alexandra Park is the 37th running of the Woodlands Caduceus Club Classic. Let's have a look at the prelude to it from last week. Here's Millwood Nike. Now, Michael, they don't go any better than this. First up at Alexandra Park, that's her getting to the middle of the track. She's part owned by a guy who's very well known in rugby league circles. We'll hear from him post-race, but here's Millwood Nike dashing to the lead and winning as she likes.
What a wonderful Alexandra Park debut by her.
Frank, Millwood Nike, they don't go any better than that first up at Alexandra Park.
Well, we went up for it, Greg, and I'll tell you what, to say exciting is an understatement, the way she came home. And I thought she might have given the leader a little bit too much, too many lengths at the turn, but the way she came home was just devastating, and be nice to see her repeat it this Friday night.
Yeah, how do you feel about this week, given that you've got a handy barrier draw of 4 and bit of speed to your inside, but she looks pretty tractable?
She does. I think Mark will be pleased with 4 as a draw. I don't profess to be an expert in racing, but there's a good one inside her, or a couple of good ones inside her, but the big horses are on the outside of her, which is good. So it gives her a slight advantage, I think.
Yeah, great bloke, Frankie Endicott. And Michael, good to have him associated with this horse, along with his son Shane. Of course, we know him in rugby league circles. Next week on the show, we'll have a longer chat to Frank about his involvement in harness racing. And he's decided with the coaching side of things in rugby league, those days are gone. He wants to invest his time and effort into his harness horses. So he's got a couple with Crandell Getty, and he's got a very smart one here in the favourite for the Group 1 on Friday night.
She was super. Very long striding filly, big filly. You don't often see them come to Alexandra Park, Greg, and at their first attempt, come from last, balance up and stretch out like that. Super impressive. She finds herself in a really strong field. Carlua Flyby for Team Telfer, who are leading the premiership and are serious race players now. We know that. They've developed that new string to their bow over the last couple of years of being able to win major races. They're there. An Advanced Party, who's got a horrid draw here, was devastatingly good on debut and put her at barrier 2, and she's probably half her $8 quote. But even then, Millwood Nike has been outstanding. With Sir Mark Purdon come back last week at Oamaru, Greg, and say, hey, I'm the boss still. I'm the boss. That's what happens in the big races. And he'll be driving her at 2:30 on opening on Wednesday morning straight into $1.80. I reckon she'll start at $1.60 because we're going to see that spring avalanche of money for the All-Stars horses. So I think she'll probably win, but this is the first race I've seen, Greg, which is the new embodiment of what harness racing New Zealand are trying to do. And that is early season 2-year-old form. Everybody has the winter to chill out and do what they want to do, and then we get busy at the back end. And I think this is an outstanding field. Had this race, as it used to be, been run in April, Greg, you put some horses in there and they're a little bit immature and they're not quite ready, and Millwood Nike hadn't even raced by then. And you're not sure what you're getting. we're getting high-class 2-year-old racing this week. I think we have a standout, but there's 3 or 4 or 5 other good horses in here, Greg, who are going to make it really interesting. This is the first race I've seen, which will help convince me that the new season is actually going to work, and it's going to make for an incredibly busy spring period.
Yeah, 6 in a row in this race for the All-Stars, but like you said, Kalua flybys in there. I'm very impressed by Advance Party, and I was impressed with what Barry Purdon had to say on SENZ radio recently too. He rates her highly. Won't be easy from out there. And don't forget about Love Struck, out of the wonderful filly and Linda Lovegrace, drawn to the outside of her stablemate Millwood Nike. But yeah, an excellent edition of the Woodland Stud Caduceus Club Classic. Continuing our preview of Alexandra Park on Friday night. The Spring Cup is not too far away. It's with Better Vet. We're having a look at Kango here, finishing in 3rd position behind Typo. That's Raven Banner in the Dennis Thompson colours. But Kango was good here, Michael, and I would expect improvement.
And off a 35-metre handicap. Now, as we look at this, these 3 are in the race. The big news coming out Wednesday morning is Old Town Road out of the Spring Cup. 2.1 favourite is gone. He is out. Spoke to John Dickey, had minor skin taken off legs in a paddock incident where he rolled into a fence on Monday. No concerns. He'll still go to the Holmes DG in a couple of weeks. He did say the New Zealand Cup, less likely, not because of this injury, Greg, because the horse may not be ready for it. So don't be backing Old Town Road in the Cup. This race, 2,200 metres, better handicap for Kango. He's only off the 15 this week, Greg, but he's still going to need to give a horse like Typo, who won that, and Hey Bartender. Spoke to James Stormont Wednesday morning. He's accepted for 2 races. He is more likely to start in this race because he thinks he needs the standing start experience after the gallop and the race we just saw. If you put Hey Bartender and Typo and Raven Banner on the front end of the field, Greg, it's going to be really hard for Kango to come around them and beat them. Not saying he can't do it, because he's the only New Zealand Cup horse left in this race. But it's an intriguing little Spring Cup. The big news out of the race, of course, that Old Town Road will not be starting.
All right, the other feature race on the night, Michael, is the John Devlin Memorial Handicap Trot. JD, just a terrific bloke, and nice to have a good field assembled for it. Just briefly, Michael, Temporale starting off 30 metres over 2,200 with a potential Renwick Farms Dominion horse in front of him, a Flying Spur, who got it wrong last time. I understand the half hobbles will be back on him. We saw Call Me Trouble winning last week. So, yeah, interesting go. Which way would you be going in the John Devlin?
I think Temporale begins so quickly. He might get onto the back of the field and actually get past a couple of these pretty early, Greg. I think he's got his chance. I think Temporale, I'm not saying it's a good thing by any means, and he does tend to be underpriced by the bookmakers, but he's the best horse in the field by a long way. So I'm happy enough to be with Temporale, dependent on the tempo of the race, depending whether they go 246 or 250, which are vastly different things.
Yeah, and Son of Patrick, of course, goes round in that as well. There are still some tables available at the top of the park, although they're filling pretty quickly. And, of course, you've got the Lyell Creek Lounge and you've got the Alex Bar and Eatery. Plenty of options there for you at Alexandra Park. Go to alexandrapark.co.nz for all the details around that. We lost a superstar of the pacing ranks in the last 20 years in the form of Flashing Red last week. Of course, he was trained in New Zealand by Tim Butt and Phil Anderson. As part of my one-on-one series, I got the chance to reflect with Tim on some of Red's great performances. So we were about to roll that in for you today, so that if you haven't caught up with the one-on-one, you're going to hear what Tim Butt thought of his 2-time New Zealand Cup winner.
Inside Comedy Classic, Flashing Red and Anthony Butter going for the front. It's Flashing Red, it's an Australian victory, it's an Australian Quinella. Comedy Classic's going to run second, and it's all the honours to Aussie. They've won it, and a good win for Flashing Red from Comedy Classic. It's Ella.
He wasn't in the zone going into his second cup though, but I do recall you saying to me a month out, don't give up on him. He's such a great star, don't be surprised. The race itself, He came 3 wide, and I remember standing by the winning post and seeing Ants going forward and yelling out to Davey Earnshaw, get on my back, because Tribute was one of the favourites for the Cup, and you guys believed was your best chance in the race.
Yeah, well, Tribute won the Flying Stakes, and he was actually going really well, and Flashing Red was a different horse. He'd had a few problems, and it was the same. We had 3 weeks to so after the Flying Stakes at Ashburton, he didn't race again, and it's really, I sat down with myself and just went through everything that I could eliminate could be wrong with him. I treated him for soundness, which we injected his front joints. He wasn't sort of eating at the time. It's not like him, so I used to force feed him with, I'd sail on him every second day with a mixture I made up, and we eliminated the bleeding side of it. I treated him for urinary tract disease, and every little thing I ticked off and ticked off and ticked off. And as he got closer to the race, you could just see him change. I reckon if he'd had another week, he'd have won by 5 lengths. You know, that's how I felt. And but it was a phenomenal performance. And as you say, Ants went to go 3 wide because he said to, you know, like he wanted to drag Beaver into it. You know, like, and he had to get going anyway because it was time. But you know, Tribute went a terrific race, but Flashing Red was just that great stayer. You know.
Down to the winning post now, and it's Classic Cullen, the leader, 1 round to go. From Bailey's Dream, he'd have to be a superstar from there. He's done it so hard. Changeover's been smothered up on the inside. He's tucked away right behind the leader as they work out of the straight to the 1,000 metre mark. Then came Bondi, who's had a great run, followed by Roman Gladiator. Flashing Red's trying hard to work around the outside. Then came Keep Right On Dreaming. Tributers following up Flashing Red. Monkey King's got on 2, Tributes back. Sly Flying in the middle of those, and then came White Power Lad, followed by Awesome Ambro and Power of Tara. 29.5 down the back they run, and they've got 700 metres to go. It's Classic Cullen, the Cup leader. Classic Cullen in front. He's holding sway at the moment from a very game Bailey's Dream. Then Flashing Red on the outside, followed by Changeover. In behind them then is Bondi coming into the race, followed by Tribute. Then Monkey King, he's going to be the widest runner. Roman Gladiator, Sly Flying, and then Keep Right On Dreaming. Down the side they run. Second quarter in 30.5. The big gun's about to fire now on the point of the turn, and Bailey's Dream. Bailey's Dream has hit the lead from Flashing Red, Tribute, and the Monkey. Here comes Monkey King right down the outside. It's Bailey's Dream. Monkey King starting to rattle down the outside. Tribute's right there in the middle. Monkey King got to the lead. The mighty Monkey in front. Flashing Red's coming back on the inside. Tribute in the middle. They go to the line. Flashing Red. What a win. The 10-year-olds won it. Flashing Red over Monkey King and Tribute in a magnificent cup.
A mighty staying horse, Michael, a 2-time New Zealand Cup winner, an Auckland Cup winner, of course, the winner of over $2 million. And, well, he was just an outstanding stayer, rather. His performance to win that second New Zealand Cup off the back mark had to be seen to be believed.
Yeah, and let's hope he is the last horse to ever win the New Zealand Cup off a handicap. There was some chat this year it may go back to being a handicap. I want to see it stay a free-for-all. It's from a different era, Greg, and he was a horse from a different era. Those horses don't barely exist in harness racing anymore, those just stayers who can't keep up over a mile. So, great horse. Tim and Prop and everybody involved did a fantastic job with him. And yet, Greg, when you look at those pictures, it's remarkable what the New Zealand Cup can do. It just produces those stories all the time. I think we're going to see some more in about 7 weeks' time.
All right, if you didn't get a chance to see that one-on-one series with HRNZ and Renwick Farms, you can go to YouTube, look up One-on-One Greg O'Connor, and you'll see the 6 stories there. I love doing them, Michael. It's got Clark Barron was part of it. Actually, we did a story on Paul Renwick, Kirk Larson, Nathan Williamson's a great yarn, obviously the Tim Butt one. Ian Cameron I really enjoyed doing. So if you haven't had a chance to have a look at those, you can do so by going to YouTube. But, you know, getting the insights from some of those names that you don't hear a lot from, and Ian Cameron was clearly one of those. There's always a story to be told in this game.
Well, the media's changed, Greg. I mean, I'm the racing editor for the Herald, but we don't do those stories. That's not what we do. We have a lot of galloping and a lot of Australian galloping and a lot of harness racing, but you have races every day. Whereas in the old days, Dave Cannon and Jeff Scott, bless his soul, they would do those stories because they had less racing and more room over a longer period of time. And trackside, that's not their business model anymore. That's no one's fault. It's just not what they do for a job. So often people need to watch these things online, or you can catch them occasionally on trackside, who are still very good about giving space to shows like this. But the models change, Greg, and some people will think there's not as much information. It's just there. You just need to go find it. The one conduit for that, the one place you'll find most of the good harness racing stuff, is hrnz.co.nz. They will bring it all together, stories, reviews, previews, photographs and online stuff. So that's the place to go, Greg, for people who are worried they're missing some harness racing stuff. It's still there. You just need to go looking for it.
Yeah, absolutely you do, Michael. Thursday night, Addington Raceway, a really special night too. For those in the game, you'll know that Murray Edmonds has been struggling health-wise. Murray and Kelly, the race night's been named after them on Thursday night, and there's a rather large function in the Silks Lounge. 330 people, sold out in a couple of days. It was put together by Amy Edmonds, Stevie Golding, Sandy Curtin. They've really done a great job, and some of the prizes that they've got for their raffles and the auction items are going to be enormous. Let's do the preview of one of the features there, and it does actually star Shylock, who's been really good at the trials lately, Michael. One of a few for the All-Stars going around in this Woodland Stud Size Stakes heat. Carrera Repeater's another, but Shylock's been unbeaten, and the way he's cruised to the line here, not a lot of urgency from Natalie Rasmussen. He does have to come off the second row, but they've got Wish Me Luck in the race, they've got OK Boomer in the race, so there's a lot of all-star representation. Mark Purdon, Hayden Cullen going around in heat number one of this important series.
Yeah, the second wave. So this is a maiden heat of the Sire Stakes. It's that second wave of horses coming through who didn't race in the spring. He might be the best of them. Cavallo Rapido might be another very good one. It's hard to work out where they sit until they get to the races, but I think he'll be short enough. Natalie's drives tend to be short in these type of races. I'm not saying I'll be jumping on him, but really interesting to see how they go. Their Top Gun, Don't Stop Dreaming, or Don't Start Dreaming, he is back at the workouts next week or maybe the week after. He's got a very small window to get ready for the Harness Million on October the 14th, where he has to take on the likes of Merlin. So really small window for him. They are still hopeful of getting him to this race. He's still the top gun, Greg, but this is very much, as mentioned, because of the almost 2 seasons in 1 year type thing. Very much a case where the crop is in flux because we haven't seen that second wave yet. It hits Addington on Thursday night.
Yeah, it certainly does. The Canterbury Spa and Pools Sires Stakes, $40,000 this race, 3-year-old fillies going around, and this will be an appropriate win. Alatine, of course, trained by Amy Edmonds and her dad Craig. That's it in the middle of the track in the predominantly black colours. Hot to Trot's in front and does it very nicely, but this horse is charging home. Gee, she raced really well in this. She comes up with a whitish barrier draw, takes on Nathan and Brad Williamson's pair of Hidden Delight and Mixed Faith, who've been excellent. Majestic Love for Phil Williamson, Blair Orange to drive, 1 start, 1 win, and Paramount Empress, who's been well schooled at the workouts and trials for the Purdon Cullen team, comes up with a nice barrier draw of 4. Michael, market-wise, $350 for Paramount Empress, not seen on race day yet, $450 a pair, Hidden Talent and Mixed Faith, and then you're out to $11 for Alatino. I thought was pretty good in that race.
Yeah, and bred to be good. Out of Alapau, it's been an outstanding breed for a long time now. I don't have a strong opinion, Greg. I've seen them at the workouts, I've seen them at the trials, but trials are so small, it's hard to work out what it all means. A lot of it's going to come down to who gets to Addington under the lights and handles it and who doesn't handle it. But we are seeing a really strong bunch of Williamson horses up against a Mark Purdon horse. So there's plenty there to like about this bunch. What it all means for the punters, Greg, I have no idea.
Yeah, and good luck to everyone associated with this important night at Addington Raceway, the fundraiser for Murray and Kelly Edmonds. Motukarara on Sunday, where Coincidentally, the Edmonds team are. So the grass track there, it is the Majestic Sun DG Jones Banks Peninsula Trotting Cup. Always a good race and sometimes a key lead-up race with the likes of Lyell Creek winning this and going on and winning the Dominion. Matuatana was nothing short of outstanding. We saw this video earlier, but it's worth showing, Michael. He was slow out. It was over the 1980. That's him getting to the outside. What you've got to focus on here is his last 100 metres. He got to the line beautifully. He's won on the grass before. If he trots all the way, gee, I think he'll take some beating, Michael.
Greg, if he came out and won the Banks Peninsula Cup by 7 lengths, I wouldn't be surprised. If he galloped down the back straight and ran over the outside fence, I wouldn't be surprised. I have absolutely no idea what Matuatana is going to do on any given day, and I don't think anybody else does either. The other big danger in the race, obviously, is Mataderos. When he came over from Australia, people probably didn't think he'd be a grass track horse. He seemed to handle it beautifully. I think he won this race 2 years ago.
Last year.
Or even last year it was. So, God, that seems a long time ago. I think one of those two will win, and Matuatana may well beat Mataderos because he's probably flat out a better horse, but I've got no idea what he'll do, Greg. He would be as confusing a horse as I've dealt with in my time in harness racing.
Yep, well, it's a good program there on Sunday. 11 races, they get underway just after 12 o'clock. We're going to take another break here on your box seat. Hope you're enjoying us being back. On the other side, Mark Purdon catches up with an old friend who's now, of course, at stud. Mark catching up with an old mate.
Yes, yeah, nice to see him, Greg, and particularly how he looks. He looks tremendous.
Yeah, look, when was the last time that you did see him? Because it'll be a good couple of years now.
Yeah, it would be a couple of years when we said goodbye and he off to the USA. So.
Mark's such a special horse to you. You think about his racetrack performances and we think Sire Stakes final, couple of derbies, 2 New Zealand Cups, Victoria Cup, Inter Dominion. Is there one race that stands out more than the other? Is the one that you think was more special?
Well, I thought the Inter Dominion in Perth was a great thrill, the way he won that. And, you know, he had to be the best so often, and going to Australia and taking on the best and coming out in the final and doing what he did was a great thrill. And also the New Zealand Cups are always a special race, and they're the race you set your heart on winning when you're young and dream of winning a cup. And yeah, he did it twice and did it in great style.
I won't forget Mark McNamara's call, get Nasser on the phone, he's in another orbit. That day must have been an incredible feeling sitting in the bike behind him.
Yes, it was, Greg. Yeah, I thought round the last corner he was just travelling nice, and when I asked him just to stretch out, he just put lengths on him, and I think, you know, about 50 metres or 60 metres to go, I raised the whip and he went again. You know, and he was a champion.
With all the great horses you've driven, and it's never fair to compare them eras-wise, but he's got to be in the absolute top echelon for you.
Yes, yeah, he's the best, Greg. Yeah, he really was. You know, given us so many wonderful thrills, and just a very genuine racehorse, but a special horse with it, just off the track, and just a wonderful horse to be around. He was just like your mate.
I got to spend that time with you leading into the Victoria Cup and spent the day with him, and he was a great mate of yours. You had this unbelievable, I'm going to say affection for each other, but respect for each other as well. He basically did everything you asked him to do.
Yes, yeah, always like that. And I'd often go out leave the barn in the morning and go out, and you could almost sort of, it is if he'd be talking to you saying, well, what are we going to do today, boss? Yeah. You know, he was a special horse.
You were clearly not surprised then by what he achieved when he went to North America.
No, I wasn't. I felt perhaps he could have gone better, but he still went well at the same time.
Right, what about breeding-wise? No surprise to see the immediate impact that he's had on his stock, particularly up there in the US.
Yes, yeah, no, he's left a lot of nice horses, and great percentage too for the numbers he's got. So yeah, they really look class acts.
All right, you've already got involved in a couple of yearlings, a colt and a filly, so tell me about how they've shaped up, both the way they broke in, and you would have done a couple of preps with them now?
Yes, we've done one prep with the colt and the filly too. Yeah, the filly's a nice pacer and does everything right, but the colt gives me the impression he's got a little bit going for him, and yeah, hopefully he's got his dad's ability.
How's he look, Mark? Is letting down as a stallion? He was always such an impressive specimen, but how's he look to you?
Yeah, he looks magnificent, Greg. Yeah, he really does. So, yeah, hopefully his fertility's better in New Zealand, and because they didn't have much luck in Australia, but let's hope maybe the cooler climate might help him here.
In your home straight in the box seat, yes, Lazarus. Wasn't that cool, Michael, to see Mark Purdon catching up with his old mate? He's let down. He was a beautiful horse anyway. And what was your favourite performance by him? And of course, Harness Link have got involved in the box seat this year. Lazarus, a big part of the John Curtin operation. But yeah, what was your favourite moment in his racetrack career?
I was there for most of them. I was there for the Interdoms. The New Zealand Cup by 10 lengths was remarkable. Still the race record. Beat Smolder, who went on to win the Inter-Dominion that year. Beat Tiger Tara, who went on to win an Inter-Dominion later on. Beat great horses and just beat them up. And he's only 4. Absolutely smashed them. Probably the most forgotten performance, or the one where he didn't win, was the Fremantle Cup, where he sat 3 wide for the entire race. That just shouldn't happen. And then when he went to America, won fresh up. Greg, I was lucky enough to go to America to see the horse and hear Jimmy Takter talk about him. He said, had I had a second preparation with this horse, had I had more time with him and could train him like an American horse, he would have broken 146. And Jimmy Takter's not a person who says silly things. He's one of the great harness horses of all time, Greg. There's no argument with that. He's won our biggest race and probably the greatest ever New Zealand Cup performance. And he's gone to America and beaten the best at what they did. He's a great horse. I considered buying a harness racing mare just to Purdon and Lazarus, Greg. That's how highly I value him as a horse and the job I think he'll do at stud. He's done an outstanding job in North America already, and I'm really happy to see him home. And it looks like Mark Purdon is too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got those couple by Lazarus, one out of That's Hunting Pink, who he quite likes. So, yeah, interesting time ahead for the former superstar of the racetrack. A horse that was retired last week, Classy Brigade, Michael. Here he is winning his 3rd Kaikoura Cup. Of course, this one had to be run at Addington Raceway. He's beating South Coast Arden, but what a remarkable horse. And coincidentally, one of his best performances for mine was when he finished 2nd behind Lazarus in a derby, and when we've just been waxing lyrical about what he achieved, the longevity of Classy Brigade, one of the things that stands out. Gee, what a great horse he was for Grant Einon, who I understand, he's part of the ownership group, will be riding this horse. He's been broken into the saddle already.
Well, it'd be a wonderful horse to have around the place, wouldn't he? Just a warrior, and not the fastest horse ever born, Greg, but no Lazarus. He retires a Derby winner. Great horse, and an embodiment of what the standard bred is, which is a workhorse who goes to work and tries hard every day, and that was Classy Brigade.
Michael, the Parade of Champions, speaking about horses of the past, which will be held at Addington Raceway as part of New Zealand Cup Day. I think it's going to be after about race 6 on the day, where the Cup is normally run at race number 10. What about the 3 horses that are going to turn up? Monkey King, 2-time New Zealand Cup winner, Lazarus, 2-time New Zealand Cup winner, and the ultimate 3-time winner in our era anyway, in Terra to Love. Wonderful idea by Darren Williams and the team at Addington, something that people should embrace on the day.
Yeah, and it's important that harness racing does embrace its past champions. We don't often get to see them back on the track, but yeah, 3 great horses. Monkey King was a magical horse. Terra to Love was the perfect New Zealand Cup horse, and Lazarus, as you heard in my era, the greatest New Zealand Cup winner. So it's great to have them there. Ricky May's going to come down with the Cup and potentially with Judy to present the Cup for presentation later on. And we know Ricky's story, 7 Cups and a Lazarus man himself back from the dead. So wonderful to say to people, this is what it's about. This is the pageantry. This is what we're doing today. This is a special day. And it is the most special day in New Zealand racing. Alongside the Karaka Billion, it's the most special day we have. So, Greg, I think it's really important. Darren's embraced that. Him and Brian Rabbit have given more race names to the great horses of the past. It's important to have those links because it adds perspective. It'll be cool to see the boys out there after race 6 on Cup Day.
Yeah, absolutely, it will be that. What about racing that we've got coming up for you this week in Aotearoa? And we start off with that Addington meeting on Thursday night, the Murray and Kelly Edmonds race meeting. The feature there, the $40,000 Group 3 Canterbury Spa and Pool Sire Stakes for the 3-year-old fillies. Big night, Alexandra Park, 11 races, and great to see the numbers in Auckland at the moment. 5:19 the start there with the Group 1 Woodland Stud Caduceus Club Fillies Classic being that feature. Winton race on Saturday. They have a 9-race program there. 12:05 the start time. And Motokarara with the $30,000 Group 3 Majestic Sun DG Jones Banks Peninsula Trotting Cup. Now, you need to get involved in those. Go to tab.co.nz for all of the markets. That Sunday meeting, of course, come out at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Competition-wise, we've got a few things coming up for you in the next few weeks. We have Labour Day at Ashburton. A chance for you to win 4 tickets there to there's a very special room on the day that will feature, of course, the Ashburton Flying Stakes and the Trotting Flying Stakes there as well. Kaikoura are offering the same on their Alabar Day, so you'll have a chance via the competition on the box seat to win 4 tickets to Kaikoura Cup Day, which is, of course, the day before the Melbourne Cup and 8 days out from the IRT New Zealand Cup. And Harness Racing New Zealand have a super stable coming up too, so keep an eye on hrnz.co.nz for you to get involved in that. And I think the winning prize may well be a $20,000 spa pool. Now, in the past, we've had our Rakiro Racing Best Bets of the Week. Rakiro Racing have decided that they won't be involved this year, but we'd really like to thank them for their continued support. Graham Hand from Hand Milking is getting in behind this. Now, not only is he getting in behind the Best Bets of Michael and I each week, and we're going to place a $100 multi. More about that in a moment. He's also putting up $100 and wants to go head-to-head with us, Michael, by trying to make more money than we can over the 35 weeks, which is terrific, and all the profits will go to the Breast Cancer Foundation, which is a really great gesture from him. So he'll sponsor that too. So we need to not only find winners, maybe not so much value we'll worry about this year. We need to stay in front of him because otherwise we're going to cop it.
Well, more importantly, Greg, we need to make some money for breast cancer research. It's important stuff. It's incredibly important. So what we're going to do is try and tip you a winner. This week, I'm starting with the winner. It's going to be Franco Indy for me, Addington, Thursday night. He comes in rated 70, which is beautiful for him. I think he'll win. I'm willing to take the shorts because it's part of a multi-bet. But week by week, there'll be the occasional value horse there, Greg. But this is about making coin for a really important cause. So Franco Indy for me. My bestie, what's your part of the multi?
Yeah, Montana DJ, I think he would have won last week if the run had remained for him on the inside. So I spoke to Zach Butcher about that. He said he concurred. He said, yeah, I think he would have too. So I'll take him. Graham has gone for Vin Scully. Vin Scully, his selection this week, so he'll have 100 to win on that. And as soon as the markets come out, I'll certainly put those on. And we'll update you each and every week about the profit margin that hopefully we're able to achieve with regards to that. So yeah, thanks to Ronnie Dorr again and the Rakiro Racing team, and to Graham Hand, who's picked up the mantle. Michael, he's got a terrific logo, which we're going to have a bit of fun with over the time too. But gee, it's great to have the show back. So much happening in the sport of harness racing, and so much information that we'll provide you each and every week. But we're also going to do a few things differently. Try and give you a few more stories as well to keep you engaged in your program, which is the box seat.
Yeah, a bit of both, Greg. Looking forward to previews. Less review stuff, more preview stuff. Try and find you a winner. As you said, some of those stories from behind the scenes. It's a time of change in harness racing, Greg, and we're going to try and inform people on that. And of course, we also have the Victoria Cup, the Inter-Dominions coming up in Victoria, right through to things like the Miracle Mile. So stick around. If you don't get a chance to watch us every week at the allotted times on trackside, YouTube it there every week, Greg. We will try and do our best to keep people informed about this fun industry at a time when there is so much going on.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Thanks for your input. Both of us will see you in 7 days' time.